I told you we'd be back, and we're back. Just grab some water, and here we go. It's time to talk more NFL draft recap here on the Audible, the Footballguys.com podcast, and why the Pittsburgh Steelers crushed this draft. Coming up in about 25 minutes, so stay tuned for that. But first and foremost, Bloom, it's good to get back into the rhythm. You always call it our calendar, and just talking NFL draft with our people, man.
It is, and because the draft is a time to look at where teams are, where they're going, where they want to be going. It's a chance for us again to get that first lens into changes. The team's self-assessment. I think we talked about the Steelers. We'll see some sober self-assessment in the way that they conducted their draft. It's a chance for the fans of the teams to reconnect and through the excitement or disappointment, sorry, Giants fans, of another draft, or just the unknown expectations. You're a Cardinals fan, so it is an exciting moment on the calendar, and it is that rare peak where the decision makers of the teams can't lie. They show us what they care about, right or wrong. They show us what the plan is, or in some cases, if they even have a plan.
It's like shining the light. You know what I mean? Like you can say all this stuff, but what do you really mean?
Right. It's like
really going.
The peak, I always say peeking through keyhole seats. And it's like for a couple of days, the door's open and we can actually look into the room for a few days and then they close the door. And actually teams are literally showing war room footage now that we never got to see before. So that's pretty cool.
Right. And they're kicking scouts out the week before, Mike Mayock. Anyway, let's move into the AFC North again. Steelers we'll save for last. But let's start with Cincinnati. Okay, always kind of but
sure.
You look at the top of their draft, Jonah Williams, their pick, offensive tackle from Alabama, pick at number 11 overall, one of the most versatile players. And then some people think that he can't play tackle because he's got those little short arms. Mm-hmm. But I think they're longer than Andre Dillard's arms, if memory serves. I may be wrong there, but okay, let's really talk about Jonah Williams and that footwork, that versatility, that strength of mind that he comes to the field with from Alabama. I think that's a fine pick for this team that's been, searching for tackle help for quite a while. Doesn't help when you get rid of old guys that go to the Rams and star. But anyway, Drew Sample, the tight end from Washington, was their second round pick. We'll see. This is a Zach Taylor-led team now, and if you talk to Sean McVay, you're up for a head coaching gig. But okay, Taylor, let's see what you do with the offensive weapons. Yes, we already know AJ Green and of course Mixon, but now Drew Sample in the mix there to play tight end. Jermaine Pratt, linebacker from NC State in the third round, and then following it back-to-back Wolfpack in the fourth round with Ryan Finley. Now Finley, big guy, maybe not the most athletic, and also had to transfer from Boise State because some guy named Brett Rippon, speaking of six-figure guarantees. But there is Ryan Finley, and we know that, Andy Dalton's days are numbered. Unless he comes out and goes nuts this year, maybe Finley could be their guy, the developmental guy. We'll see. It's looking into the future there because of the Andy Dalton situation. Reno Wren, defensive tackle, Arizona State. Michael Jordan, guard from Ohio State. Travion Williams, running back, Texas A&M. Now, one of the most, hotly debated players out there. 6th round pick. There were some people that were like, Travion will go in the 2nd round. I wasn't necessarily one of those people. Now, he's very athletic in terms of agility and electric toes, Bloom, I like to say. But you don't put it together. Big play specialist, that's for sure. Maybe there's some questions about his instincts, and falls to the 6th round. It's interesting landing spot. We'll see what he does there. Deshaun Davis, linebacker, Auburn, 6th round. Rodney Anderson, another running back, another Oklahoma guy there in the 6th round as well. And then following it up, Jordan Brown, the final pick, cornerback from South Dakota State.
The Bengals are the cheap team. I think they probably hired Zach Taylor because he was so cheap and they could get them into the Cincinnati practice facilities for free, something like that. University of Cincinnati. But this was a team, we're used to seeing them take best player available on our boards. Maybe they're using us as their scouting department, draft Twitter. But not a lot necessarily picks like that, although Jonah Williams fits, and a player that most I think expected to see him go to Jacksonville or Buffalo. Instead, he falls to Cincinnati, instant starter. They tried to get out ahead of this. You mentioned Whitworth going to the Rams when they drafted Jake Fisher, who's now a tight end for the Bills, and Cedric Ogbuehi. I'm not sure where he is. I'm not sure. I know he's not going to be a good football player anytime soon. So those picks both went bust, but they get Cordy Glenn, and now they get Jonah Williams, who absolutely can stick a tackle. Drew Sample, Okay, see, who was the blocking tight end the Broncos took at the end of the second round? Was it the McDaniels draft, right?
It was Richard Quinn,
Yes.
Robert Quinn's brother.
Yeah. So this is, I mean, maybe Drew Sample can be a serviceable receiver,
He's
but
no Will Dissly.
no, no, he's not. He's not going to break any big plays. Jermaine Pratt with Burfict gone, he's a safety, a rangy linebacker. Ryan Finley, just a he's a good backup, a high floor backup. Much like Dalton, he's going to be an extension of the coach. He's going to be a disciplined quarterback at executing the scheme. This is yawn. I mean, we talk about the other three teams in this division. Cincinnati's just boring because it's a business more than it's a football team, I think. Wren, interior penetrator. So, and Geno Atkins will be a great guy for him to model himself after. Michael Jordan, not that Michael Jordan, but guard help. This team needs help at guard. And then they do use us. A lot of people like Travion Williams, a great pass blocker, even though he's an undersized back, and some burst, some straight line speed. Kind of like we were talking about David Montgomery in the NFC North. Travion Williams, you actually, even though he's a small back, you see him in the fourth quarter in overtime, outlasting defenses and having the same energy he had in the first quarter. And then Rodney Anderson. And we could only assume, Cease, that the medical staffs just X'd him and said, too bad. He could have been a great football player. The injuries are too much. And maybe the Bengals aren't going to put a lot of time and energy into that. I don't know. 6th-round pick, sure. If we start hearing in mini camps, OTAs, he's not going to be playing that. It's training camp, or maybe he's on the practice squad next year. Just remember that Ronnie Anderson would be a 2nd-round pick in this draft if he was healthy. Didn't have all these injuries. Great in the passing game. Great as a receiver out of the backfield. And also a powerful back in between the tackles. So even though Joe Mixon's got that thing locked down, they took a couple of running backs in Williams and Anderson that a lot of people like.
Cincinnati Bengals undrafted guys. Well, Jake Dogala, quarterback from Central Connecticut State. Not often we get to talk about that school, Bloom. And also Gil Brandt highlighted him. I remember when I first ran across Jake Dogala, I think it was off of Gil Brandt's tweet.
Yeah.
Because he was at somebody's pro day and he's like, look at this guy. And scouts taking notice. I'm like, okay, well, I didn't see him on the All-Star road trip, but I want to see him now. And it's interesting. Again, it's kind of, we have this whole Andy Dalton situation hanging over our heads. Not like they'd get it right.
Right.
But I'm going to pay attention to any quarterback they add.
Yeah, and I'm going to pay attention to Stanley Morgan. Another Matt Waldman favorite, technically very sound, plays with mental toughness and awareness, physical, very versatile. And then you look at the receiver depth chart for this team. AJ Green, we'll see about John Ross, we'll see about Josh Malone, you got Tyler Boyd. There's room there. Morgan should make this team and maybe even get some significant snaps for this team in very short order. So that's one we care about for fantasy, one we care about for this team. But the Bengals, again, movers and shakers in this division, not so much the Bengals.
Well, let's go next as we make the way around the AFC North here on the Audible. Let's go to the Baltimore Ravens, but Bloom, let's specifically go to Hollywood. I'm going to Hollywood later this year.
Hollywood swinging.
But let's talk about Hollywood. Marquise Brown, wide receiver from Oklahoma. Now, let's stop this narrative as best we can, Bloom. We need to battle these poor narratives out there like Brown is Tavon Austin and he's a gadget guy. You know what the blank this guy is? Sorry, Joe. Marquise Brown is a football playing Jesse. Still another Mark Schlereth term because of his route running, his quickness. It's more than just getting open underneath. It's about wanting to hurt you. He is a weapon in the literal sense. Not that he's going to run his body out there. He's a little guy, but it's the fact that he is so dangerous after the catch that he will understand how to toy with defenders and set up his routes therein to maximize run after the catch. This is great for Lamar Jackson there playing quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens. I'd said, I think it was on our draft recap show, Bloom, on the day one. I just want to see a jet sweep with Jackson on the edge and the pitch man being Brown.
Right.
Like, please just draw that up in the dirt because I think it would be awesome. So let's continue to talk about Hollywood there. Jalen Ferguson, an edge player in round 3. There were some early mocks where Ferguson actually made it into the first round, but you thought, oh, at least probably a second rounder, right? From La Tech, all that production falls to the third. What do the Ravens do? They know how to find those pass rushers. So there we go. Back to the wide receiver position as they get more weapons for Lamar Jackson. There's Miles Boykin, wide receiver from Notre Dame. Justice Hill, running back from Oklahoma State, as they add to already that cramped backfield. Like, you got Mark Ingram in free agency, and well, now you got Justice Hill to throw into the mix there as well. Ben Powers, a guard, Oklahoma. Amon Lewis Marshall, cornerback USC. We get to the 5th round. Those were all 4th-round picks. 5th round, Dalen Mack, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. And then Trace McSorley, quarterback, Penn State in round 6. Probably not going to be a quarterback. Well, maybe he could play Lamar Jackson on the scout team.
Right, exactly. They've got a mold. First, Cecil, I've got to say, and as a Steelers fan, it's actually a bit of a relief, but it's really, we got to come with the respect to Ozzie Newsome. Not, well, I mean, his ripple is going to stay with this team for a while, but it's not an Ozzie Newsome draft, and that is a relief. Like, I don't have to see Ed Reed go to him and players like that. Maybe Hollywood Brown will be one of those guys. For fantasy, this is where it gets really interesting, because people will say wide receivers went to Lamar Jackson's pass offense to die last year. So now I know I don't care about Brown and I don't care about Boykin. Lamar Jackson's a good passer. If you're going to make excuses for Daniel Jones about his teammates, we need to make a lot of excuses for Lamar Jackson at Louisville. So he's going to grow as a passer. This pass offense is going to grow, and Hollywood Brown can stay with him when the play breaks down. Remember, he's playing with Kyler Murray. He can get open deep when Lamar Jackson extends plays. That's exciting. I think Brown's an exciting pick for them. I love the way, again, self-assessment. Going into the draft, the worst wide receiver depth chart by far. You could even say take the best wide receiver off of every team's depth chart, and the Ravens still have the worst depth chart. You might even say take the top 2 receivers off of everyone's depth chart, and then maybe they're still in the bottom 10.
You ain't lying.
No. So they go out, they get Hollywood Brown, they get Miles Boykin, different guys. Boykin, I thought the Steelers were going to take him at 66. I really did. But he didn't go there. He went to Baltimore, so we'll get to watch him in Baltimore. And it's Antonio Brown's cousin, too. Ooh. So we'll see. But I think both of these guys have a lot more fantasy potential than people might tell you. Ferguson, highly productive, maybe not the best traits. That's why he falls in this draft. You also, and his brother, is Jazz Ferguson his brother? Am I remembering that right, Cease? I could be wrong.
So
I could be wrong. Don't quote me on any of this. This is what happens when we go live. I shouldn't say things like this. And what you saw here is, and by the way, no second round pick because of the Lamar Jackson trade last year. So Lamar Jackson also part of this draft. You see as you go down these picks, though, some of the guys they get the 4th round pick for Flacco, so they recoup that. Use it on Justice Hill, who is a nice element to add to this backfield. Incredible initial burst speed. And I forget who was it pointed out that he was keeping Chris Carson off the field to an extent. So we see what kind of pro Carson turned into. That matters when we look at Justice Hill. Ben Powers, good description there. We talked about Drew Samia, his teammate, going to Minnesota. He's not quite the same prospect, but powerful, though, especially as a power run blocker. That sounds good in this offense. Lewis Marshall, a corner who could, again, convert to safety, physical, some athleticism. Dalen Mack, run stuffer, a good run stuffer. You can use those guys, but you can only use them, well, to the extent of 5th round picks. They're not crucial players. So a solid draft for Baltimore. The most important thing is they said our wide receivers are just not NFL quality, and at least they have a chance if these guys get up to speed quickly. Of course, with Hollywood Brown held up a little bit by his recovery from Liz Frank, but he expects to be back in training camp.
No Ozzie Newsome in this draft, but maybe traces of Ozzie with certain picks and certain UDFAs. The one that stands out to me is Evan Worthington, defensive back from Colorado, big, swift, athletic, can find the ball. Saw him at the local pro day for the Denver Broncos. I actually talked to him after that practice. I honestly thought the Broncos would pick him up as an undrafted free agent. But, okay, Baltimore, I see you. Adding some defensive talent, also adding, looks like at least one tight end, couple tight ends in the mix. UDFAs for the Ravens. Who do you like?
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones here. This is one of the more interesting classes. Gerald Willis. A lot of these guys were considered draftable. Gerald Willis from Miami, a one-gapper. Evan Worthington, you mentioned, a good safety. Justin Christian, and if you like Brad Kelly's work at wide receiver, he liked Christian a lot. Another wide receiver, and this is a great position to be trying to make it seem. Antoine Wesley, another wide receiver. Interesting that Cliff Kingsbury didn't go after him. Long, good after the catch, can win in the air somewhat. He doesn't have quite that my ball mentality, but there's a lot of upside with a guy like Antoine Wesley. So we're watching wide receivers if they can make this team. Otaro Alaka, they didn't get anybody necessarily to replace C.J. Mosley. So we're going to watch, somewhat talented linebacker that they bring in, and L.J. Scott. And L.J. Scott is, you look at Gus Edwards, who was an undrafted free agent for them last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you think, Steve, we were just talking about as prospects, measuring them at the time that they were coming into the league. Well, if you like Gus Edwards, you're going to really like L.J. Scott. I think that he has as much or more to work with, even though it's limited in that downhill banger skill set. So we're definitely going to watch that. So lots of names in the Ravens undrafted free agents to watch.
Wasn't it? It was an ankle injury, I think, knocked L.J. Scott out of the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
Like he was one of those guys, kind of on the way to Mobile. I was looking forward to seeing, and then it's like, crap, we're not going to see him. So now we'll maybe see him in the pro game. Let's go to the Cleveland Browns up next as we wrap you around the AFC North here on the Audible. And with the Browns, if you'd have told me they're going to move out of the first round, of course, thank you, Odell Beckham Jr. I guess he has to be part of this draft, right, Bloom? Technically.
Right.
Okay, that's pretty damn good draft. But if you were to tell me that they were going to move out of the first round and they could get Greedy Williams, I'd be like, no, Doug, is this a 5 o'clock free crack? Like, no, like, come on now, you're smoking. Like, come on, don't say they can get Greedy Williams there, especially at 46, especially at pick 14 in the second round. Now, Greedy is allergic to hackling.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
That's okay.
He's long, he's athletic. He's fast. Like, there's a lot to like about Greedy Williams. And we're not Browns fans. We're Steelers fans. People know that. But we kind of are genuflecting. We're like nodding at what the Browns are doing in free agency and trades in the draft. We're just kind of nodding at them going like, damn, y'all up and done it. Like, okay, Greedy. Okay, Greedy. There you go. Cleveland, round 2. Round 3, Sion Taki, linebacker from BYU. Round 4, Cedric Redwine. Red wine, safety from Miami.
Yeah.
There you go, UB40. Round 5, Lindell Wilson, linebacker, Alabama. Austin Seibert, a kicker from Oklahoma in the 5th. Drew Forbes, a guard from Southeast Missouri. And then 7th round, Donnie Lewis, corner, Tulane. So a couple corners, a couple nice players in this draft for Cleveland.
Yeah. Look, we see what Cleveland's doing, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to make this rivalry really, really fun. So obviously, yes, a big part of this is Odell Beckham, the first and the third. But then you get, speaking of Odell Beckham, you get the LSU product, Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward. Yeah. Maybe in the year or two, we're talking about that as one of the best cornerback combos in the league. So good contrasting styles and strengths between Ward and Williams. Cecil, aren't you looking forward to seeing Greedy Williams like on AJ Green or something like that?
Right.
Or just that same kind of. He is a guy who can blot out his opponent and tackling, whatever. That's excellent. And I think they did a tiny little trade up to get him. So just shows some urgency. Taki, maybe they did a bit of a reach. Lots of energy flying all over the field, inconsistent. Redwine is unbelievably athletic safety, and that was Jabril Peppers, right? Lindell Wilson, and we're going to turn the page when we talk about the Steelers. Sometimes part-time players or unheralded players in Alabama's defense can be really good pros because it's Alabama's defense. Right. It's a pro quality defense already, So Lindell Wilson is a really solid player. What tremendous pickup for them. They get a kicker, so kicker battles, kicker wars starting there. I think they got Greg Joseph. So it's all about Odell Beckham, which can give us an entree to do the preview for the Giants. How long are we going to go off on Dave Gettleman during the Giants episode? But let's give some love to John Dorsey for making that deal. Yeah,
let's get a lot of love there. And even for the undrafted free agents for the Cleveland Browns and Dorian Baker, the baby maker. If you're got a Baker in your name, you're a baby maker. So wide receiver, Kentucky, size, speed combination, huge catch radius. Problem, tracking passes.
Right.
So interesting skill set as I cough up a lung here for Dorian Baker, one of the Browns' many undrafted free agents.
Yeah, an interesting guy here, I think, would be Wyatt Ray, who was behind Harold Landry last year, was pretty productive. And maybe with Kareem Hunt suspended, and maybe if Duke Johnson gets traded, you look at running back. roster spots. Pitt running back, Cease. I always got to like a Pitt running back. And we got one drafted down in my Atlanta, Quadri Olison. We got Darren Hall. So Cleveland running back. I absolutely watch that, knowing that Hunt's going to leave a roster spot open for the first 8 games.
Well, we save him for the last here on this show on the AFC North draft recap here on the Audible. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was a dream, Bloom.
Yeah, it was.
It was a fantasy. I was like, I had my very first mock draft. I had Devin Bush to the Steelers at 20. As we got closer to the draft, and as people out there, well-respected draft analysts, whatever, but as the kind of the buzz built, like, Bush is better than Devin White now. Now, Devin White has the upside, but Devin White's still learning the linebacker position. Like, Devin Bush is ready to go now. I see London Fletcher to his game. So as the news came in, right, as the buzz, the feel, the vibe, whatever you want to say, you're all about good vibes, Bloom.
Yeah. Yes.
It seemed like there was no way in hell Devin Bush was going to be there unless the Steelers moved up, which they did with the Denver Broncos. And they had been working on that for a while now. They were working on that for at least into the week of the draft. So this wasn't Broncos are on the clock and Steelers are pounding redial. Like, this is something where the Broncos had put it out there. The Steelers were working with them. This is about at least 4 or 5 days into the process, if not a week, into the process of getting up for their guy, for Devin Bush. I love this. When that move happened, I was on the air in Nashville. I was like, this has to be Devin Bush. This is a great pick. The Broncos might regret this. Now we'll get to the Broncos in the AFC West. I think they did a fine job with the picks that they collected from the Steelers, but this is what the Steelers needed. They needed a guy like Devin Bush, ready to go, smart, instinctive. Yes, he's short, but still athletic enough to make those plays in coverage. So love that first round pick. Can't wait to hear your thoughts there. Now, Deontay Johnson, wide receiver from Toledo, basically a young Emmanuel Sanders. And, I know Emmanuel never had a 100-yard game even with the Steelers in his 4 years in the black and gold, but Deontay Johnson coming in. I'm a little, maybe this is for a different show, Bloom, but I'm kind of nervous about James Washington. Like, I didn't see enough. I really liked him in college, and I didn't see enough last year as a rookie. Hope he develops. Hope I'm wrong, but Deontay Johnson is there to take his damn job. If he's not ready, opposite of Juju, I like Deontay in the slot, but like James Washington's got to get it done. Deontay Johnson there to push him. Justin Lane, cornerback from Michigan State in the 3rd round. Benjamin Snell, running back from Kentucky. Get a big back that can run with authority. By the way, there's an undrafted back we'll talk about with the Steelers I love as well. So Benny Snell in there in the 4th round. Love that. Zach Gentry, tight end, Michigan State. Sutton Smith, kind of one of the more kind of under the radar rushers from the edge from Northern Illinois. They get him in the 6th round. Fantastic. Great pick there. Isaiah Buggs, defensive tackle, Alabama. We talk about Alabama players. Ulysses Gilbert. Almost said Grant. They drafted the general, Ulysses Gilbert, linebacker from Akron, and Derwin Gray, tackle from Maryland in the 7th round. No more Mike Munchak there to coach the offensive line. But overall, crushed it. I love what the Steelers did in this draft.
It's all about that.
We don't normally say that.
No,
either.
It was a relief. It was a relief to not have them to sit back and hear Rock Ya-Sin at 20. It was a relief that didn't happen. After hearing Artie Burns and Bud Dupree and Jarvis Jones,
they didn't pick up Artie Burns' 5th-year option. I'm shocked.
No, I know, shocking.
Couldn't move up one for William Jackson. Couldn't do that. Really? Couldn't do it.
At least TJ Watt is good. So they move up, and it's so beautiful. I mean, this is Devin Bush is a 21st century linebacker. He can provide a lot of the same things that Ryan Shazier provided without that occasional play. Like, what was he thinking? So Bush, he holds his guys accountable. He's a leader. He's intense. He's never going to leave the field. He's the next great Steelers linebacker. I had some dream about Jack Lambert, I think, because the universe rippled when they moved up for Devin Bush. It's just the next great Steelers linebacker. It's beautiful, and and I know that the charge say don't trade more darts the better. When you know what you need, and wow, was it glaring. And he's like, I'm going to hammer this to people get sick of me saying this. That Bill Belichick, they were asking Belichick about thresholds, and he said, well, when you're getting beat over and over again, you need to change something about your thresholds for a position, understanding it. Steelers needed that athleticism at inside linebacker, and they needed accountability and intensity on this team, period. I also bring up the Patriots whenever Martellus Bennett told a story. I think a Chad Johnson story came out too about Brady getting chewed out by Belichick in front of the team. Bennett said, that's the only team, the first team I was on, where everyone was equal. So Steelers, maybe you should look into that. Devin Bush is going to hold his guys accountable. It's beautiful. It's exactly the last time they did it. Troy Polamalu. We know how that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to, and the other thing I think that's interesting to think about this is, okay, they trade a second and a third next year. But because they got the third for Antonio Brown, and because they know they're going to get a comp third for Bell next year, then you have the freedom to do it. That gives you the extra pocket change to upgrade. So it closes the book on Bell and Brown in a way, right? What was all that for Devin Bush? So we'll see. You get Deontay Thompson. I don't care what you thought of Deontay Thompson. And Nick Farabaugh, who does excellent work about the Steelers, he was watching Deontay Johnson closer after the Steelers drafted him. And you could see in his tweets he's falling in love with him and saying, wow, look at this guy change speeds. Wow, look at his release.
Steelers
wow.
No wide receiver talent. I mean, bottom line.
They know wide receiver talent when it's not a gaudy athletic package like Lima Swede or Sammy Coates. And Martavis Bryant, they were right about, but they also, but when it's a 5'10", 5'11", 180, 190 pound guy who's a good route runner, who is quickness, who understands how to tell a story with changing speeds to his opponent, who's just an all-around strong football player in all the aspects of the wide receiver game, maybe doesn't have the best deep speed or the highest vertical, but just knows how to play the position. The Steelers know how to make things out of those guys. And see, you're going to love this. Start with Santonio Holmes. Okay. The Steelers get Santonio Holmes in 2006. They trade up for him. He helps them win a Super Bowl. Then things go south. Right. The Antonio Brown story wasn't that unfamiliar if we remember the Santonio Holmes story. Remember what they traded Santonio Holmes for? A fifth round pick. They traded that pick for Bryant McFadden to Arizona when he was coming back from Steelers West, and a 6th round pick. And what did they do with that 6th round pick? Antonio Brown.
Yes, sir.
Antonio Brown traded for a 3rd round pick, Deontay Johnson. So Holmes, malcontent. Brown, malcontent. May Deontay Johnson be the next in the chain of the Steelers wide receivers that help them become great, and then things go south. The rest of the draft, you got Justin Lane, long, fast corner. Some people think they got a steal. I knew they were going to take Benny Snell. Look, the Steelers, by the way, the Steelers will send, when they like a player, they'll send like everybody in the Rooney family to the damn pro day. They telegraph every pick. They telegraph everyone they love. They telegraph all the rumors on draft day where they were trying to trade up. So they telegraphed how much they love Benny Snell. And I understand why they love Benny Snell. I mean, he's a glass eater of a running back. He gets the most out of what he can. He's not athletically gifted, but he gets the most out of what he has. He gives them great depth, a great 3rd running back. It's just not something I think that's that. I think what he offers at the running back position isn't that hard to find, but they loved him. And I understand if after everything that's happened, the Steelers are just getting guys they love, like football guys. Zach Gentry, not my favorite pick. He used to be a quarterback in Albuquerque. I was talking to my father, Sigmund L. Bloom. He's talking about how he was a quarterback that nobody in New Mexico could beat. He's like, maybe he can be the quarterback for the Steelers after Roethlisberger. Maybe my dad's onto something, but he's going to be like a Ouija Thompson tight end, a big, long, athletic tight end. And these picks were interesting, right? Sutton Smith, inside, outside guy. He can play inside and outside. He can rush from the outside. He's athletic. He's an interesting guy to develop. Ulysses Gilbert just runs all over the field, a little bit undersized. Isaiah Buggs is a guy that if you watched Alabama last year, you saw Buggs. He would pop off the screen at times. He was just next to Quinnen Williams. And it's hard to stand out when you're next to Quinnen Williams. So I think that could be a great pick. Even Darwin Gray is a athletic, developmental tackle. What you should do in the 7th round is players that, wow, if we can make this player work and develop him, Sean Sarrett, Munchak's disciple, now we've got something valuable. So I really like what the Steelers did in this draft, even though they didn't get a safety.
I like what they did for undrafted free agents, and I'll talk about Trayvon McMillan, running back from CU and Virginia Tech transfer. And it was the days of TD Lee, good old Lee Suggs, and whatever the hell that other Virginia Tech running back was, where I fell in love with those Hokies. By the way, you won't be able to shut me up about Dalton Keene, tight end from Virginia Tech, when he gets to the NFL. But anyway, Trayvon McMillan, a player that I saw not only at CU and Vatech, but also at the local pro day. And he is upright as they get. He's swift. He's one speed. It's a pretty good speed. But man, is he an upright runner. Like he's running straight up and down. Now you would think, okay, straight up and down runners of the past. Oh, all right. Eddie George, Eric Dickerson. He's not that, but might be LaShawn Johnson. Okay. For those out there that remember LaShawn Johnson, I really like LaShawn Johnson as a pro. And now you couple him with the Steelers. I think that's a great fit there at the running back position. Just keep an eye on him. Bloom, who are you keeping eyes on from the UDFAs for Pittsburgh?
A couple of Longhorns, even though I'm not in Austin anymore. PJ Locke, who is that safety who could stick. I mean, please, the Steelers need to be carrying 1 or 2 developmental safeties on the practice squad or the end of the roster. It's one. I mean, it was a good draft to address safety, but when they traded out of that 52 pick, they lost a shot at a guy like, say, Nasir Adderley. That's okay because they got Devin Bush. And then Chris Nelson, who we saw Poona Ford. A lot of people saw that coming, that Poona Ford, when he fell out of the draft, he's a great undrafted free agent, should have been drafted, going to make a team. He made Seattle. So I think Nelson is a guy that could absolutely make the team as another Texas interior defensive lineman who a lot of people think should have got drafted.
And that is a wrap for the AFC North here on the Audible. It's our 2019 NFL Draft Recap Series. Make sure to check us out on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and comment below. Hit that thumbs up. We appreciate you all out there. YouTube.com/footballguys, DOTCOM. Also check out online, footballguys.com. Check out our app on your app store, whether you got a Galaxy or an iPhone, whatever. So make sure to check that out as well when that hits stores. And, of course, subscribe to the Audible on iTunes. He's Sigmund Bloom. You follow him on Twitter, @Sigmund Bloom. I am @Cecil Lammey, and the show is at the Audible, saying thank you very much. As always, stay tuned and stay frosty.